welcome back to Heroes Next Door. Thank you all for joining us today. Today is a special day because we're in Wildwood, New Jersey. We're going to be taking a look at 3 different ambulances. Many of you have asked me over the time, what is the difference between American ambulances? We have Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 ambulances. And I'm working with Defender, one of the emergency suppliers for ambulances within New Jersey, and I'm talking to Tom Fuller, right?
Yes.
Okay, and he's going to walk us through what it is for each of these vehicles. Why do they exist? And what are the different mission profiles? Okay, Tom, can you tell me first of all the difference, very basic, what is the Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 ambulance?
So a Type 1 ambulance, for a lack of a better term, is the pickup truck front, longer front end style ambulance. Type 2 is a van style ambulance, which a lot of transport services use, and areas like Camden, New Jersey, where the streets are very tight alleys, narrow alleys, they use this style ambulance. And then the Type 3 is better explained as the van front ambulance with a dual wheel setup on the back with a modular body that comes in several different sizes, from the smallest to the largest. There's 4 different size bodies that can go on there. Some of the differences with the Type 1s and Type 3s, you can refurbish and remount the bodies and have them placed down on a new chassis when you've outlasted the life of the chassis.
Okay, so you have like the F550s or F350s front end, truck end, and then you have the E series for the van fronts.
Yes.
But the boxes, are they pretty much the same box either side, or even the boxes change a little bit?
No, the boxes are available in all the sizes for all the chassis.
Okay.
So the E450, there's 3 different size boxes that can be mounted on there. Same with the F series, there's 4 different sizes.
Right. Now, it's not just Ford, because I'm not particular for Ford versus Chevy versus anything else. Right. There are other Type 2s and 3s.
Yeah,
front.
In the Type 2 world, the most popular is the Ford chassis.
Okay.
There is a Dodge Caravan available. In the Type 3, you have Ford and Chevrolet that are available. And they're the same comparable in size, E350, E450, depending upon the size of the box. In the Chevy style, it's a G35 or G4500, depending upon the size.
Okay.
And then F series, F350, F450.
Okay.
And with the F series, you have a choice of 2-wheel or 4-wheel drive.
Okay. Now, is there any specific reason why there's so many different sizes in vehicles?
People have different preferences. Some very, very busy volunteer or career-based squads put a lot of mileage in 1 year on their chassis. They like to get more life out of a $400,000 vehicle. So if they put a lot of miles in a year or two's time, they'll send it back to the manufacturer. We'll lift the body off, do any repairs to the body, repaint it, put it down on a new chassis, and it's half the cost of a new ambulance.
Yeah, it makes a big difference on, fiscal responsibility for any of the paid or volunteer services that are out there.
Yes.
I've been running an ambulance for a long time. I'm 31 years into the service. I've had the opportunity to run in all 3 of these. I've also had an opportunity to run in what we used to call a mini mod, which is kind of a van front, but the box was just a little bit different.
Yes, the box was smaller than the smallest ones that are out now, and the mini mods were built on a single rear wheel. They did not ride as smoothly that way. That was the first entry into a small box if you wanted to step up from a van but didn't want to go all the way up.
Okay. Well, I'm very interested to actually see each of the ambulances. Why don't we go ahead and start with the Type 1, which is the bigger truck front. And let's go walk through there and tell us, why this one is a good choice for different mission profiles.
Sure.
Okay.
All
right, Tom, so we came over to the Type 1 ambulance. Can you walk us through whose this is, how it's all set up, and what it's all about?
Sure. So with the Ford F-Series Type 1, you have the availability of 4-wheel drive. You have the availability of choosing a gas or diesel engine. And from a mechanic's standpoint, with it being the engine forward, mechanics like them because they're easier to work on the mechanical end of things. Opening the hood like your car and working on the vehicle. The cab affords you a little bit more room inside the front cab as well. And with these, because they're more of a truck chassis, they come from Ford with an air ride suspension that is on there to assist with lowering, especially if you have a four-wheel drive. The back end will lower to make it easier to put your patient in at the rear. And this body as well is fully remountable. And the other thing is you can remount, if you had a Type 3 and switch to a Type 1, you can remount the body from a Type 3 to a Type 1.
Can we go ahead and open the doors and kind of show us who it is?
Sure. They all come with a standard center console.
Okay, now I know in Pennsylvania we have what we call MDCs, mobile data transmitters that give us our dispatches and stuff. You're in Jersey. Is it the same kind of thing that happens down here?
Yes, some people use them, some people don't. Some people use iPads.
Okay.
And they have those mounted, or the MDC.
Okay, and then that is once the truck is built, is that a custom thing for each department?
Some departments have their own electronic and radio people that do that, and then others, like Cooper University Hospital, have us do all that at our shop when the vehicle comes from the manufacturer.
Okay, okay. Are we able to walk around and open the cabinets?
Sure. A Type 1, you have several layouts that are available, and compartments can be customized. Some people choose for a double door cabinet here on the rear or a smaller cabinet. It's all a matter of customer preference at that point. So at the rear of the vehicle, we have a step that raises to bring the ambulance cot closer. This unit is equipped with the Stryker power load system, which the Stryker cot is received by the unit on the floor, which lifts and brings it into the back of the ambulance.
Okay, now Stryker has been a very popular stretcher setup for us also, but there are other manufacturers such as Furno and stuff. Are you able to install those in these vehicles too?
Yes, we can install either brand at our dealership. Additionally, we are a Stryker authorized dealer.
Okay.
And in the state of New Jersey, 99.9% of everybody, regardless of who they purchase their ambulances from, are using the Stryker power load. That seems to be the product of choice right now.
Okay, all right. And then we'll walk inside in just a little bit. Let's keep walking around the outside and show me the different cabinetry. I love the graphics that you put on this.
Yes, this was designed by Union Beach. One of their members is a graphic arts guy, and he actually designed, they wanted to change their logos, and he came up with the design, and then we sent that to the manufacturer, and our ambulances get lettered right at the factory, unless the customer chooses to use somebody that they want on their own.
Okay.
In this case, they designed it, and Medics Emergency Vehicles did the graphics.
All right, so this is one of those double wide cabinets.
Correct, and this isn't something that you have to have. They specified this due to the size of the cabinet that they wanted a double door there. So this is basically their spec.
Okay.
Each model, Medics ambulance, there is a standard layout. If somebody just says, just give me a standard ambulance,
okay,
we can do, or they can be customized to.
Right, because some people are strictly EMS, some people are firefighter EMS, so they're going to have different equipment depending on what their mission profile is.
Correct.
Do you happen to know that, do these tend to be the bigger the Type 1s, more fire-based versus transports?
They always have been, and years ago they were less popular, the Type 1s, than they are now. But with all the improvements that the chassis manufacturers have done over the years, you get just as good or better turning radius with a Type 1 as you do with a Type 3 now.
Awesome.
And that was always the drawback, the turning radius.
Yep.
But that is no longer.
Okay, and I noticed that this one is actually fuel, not diesel, so that's a little different. I'm always used to the old diesel.
Correct, and a lot of people are going the fuel route instead of diesel now because you don't have to deal with the diesel emissions fluid, the exhaust fluid.
The DEF
anymore.
fluid, yeah.
Yeah, and there is an $11,000 savings on the chassis when you go gas versus diesel.
Okay. Pretty big chunk of change.
So yeah, if you have two identical chassis side by side, say two F550s, and they're all the same except for the motors,
Yeah.
there's an $11,000 difference.
Okay. And in this cabinet, it looks like you got a lot of wiring and stuff. What do you have in
Yeah,
here?
this is for the Vanner inverter
Okay.
in this particular unit. Some people go without inverters, and some people choose to have them in there. And this particular unit has a Vanner inverter.
Okay.
And
the
then,
inverters are good because you can plug in your equipment. Like, you know, on an EMS side of
Yes.
it, if I have a cell phone or a tablet or something like that, I can plug it in. Also, my monitor, like whether I'm using a Zoll's LifePack 15, if I need to charge batteries, maybe even the Lucas machine, we can keep those all plugged in, but it has to have an inverter to do that.
Correct. And even the spare battery for the Striker power load system
Okay.
can charge off of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here's the oxygen compartment.
Yes, this is the main oxygen compartment. Some people opt for the standard bracket like this. Some
Okay.
people opt for the automatic system that lifts it and brings it out of the unit.
Okay, so at Defender, you offer both.
That's offered by the manufacturer, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the extra spaces for backboards or KEDs or anything else they want to store.
Yeah, and some people will, depending upon if they're a fire department based and they carry gear, they'll have a compartment specifically for fire gear as well.
Right. All right. And then that brings us back around to the driver's side. So those are the outside compartments on this specific model. Can we take a look on the inside and see with the size difference?
Okay, so this unit has the squad bench with the single back paddings like a captain's chair on it. Some people opt for that, or they opt for two actual captain's chairs over here, or the traditional just one long back headrest pad across the back with the bench as you see it.
Okay, what would be the advantages or disadvantages of each system?
Well, either way, the shoulder straps can be done, which allows an EMT or paramedic to stand up and move around a little bit better with the straps on. Some people like the actual captain's chairs because they can be on a slide rail
Okay.
and they can move
Up and
back
down
and
from the
forth.
patient. Yeah, sure.
It's all a matter of choice.
Okay.
With the CPR seat, most people go with this layout because you have cabinetry under the seat
Okay.
that you can stow things. There is an option, and some people don't want a CPR seat and they want cabinets here.
Okay.
And that's also an option, customer preference. Okay.
Now, the cabinets behind you, what are those are normally in those?
So it just depends. Most ALS ambulance corps will have their ALS equipment up here. There's an option to have an exterior access to this compartment, so that the passenger could get out and without getting back in here, get the gear out from the passenger side. There's a array of things that can be done with this setup. You can have all plexiglass cafe style doors. You can have cafe style doors with the Formica covering and no see-through. You can have, some people will have their locking cabinet as a little roll-up door. The only thing you have to remember with roll-up is that has to roll somewhere, so you lose a little height. So that's all a matter of preference. Pretty much standard is where the air conditioning is located. There's an option with the air conditioning to have vents throughout the ceiling if you so opt for that. Something that has become a standard is the glove holders above the curbside door. A lot of people started doing that. Medics now offers that, just standard. You have to say if you don't want it just because it's so popular.
Okay.
Above the rear door here, you have choices. Some people don't have a cabinet at all there. Some people like to put the clock there. You can have an option to have a turn signal light on either side if you don't have a cabinet there, so that the people in the back of the ambulance know which way the ambulance is going to be turning, especially if a paramedic's starting an IV line or doing something, you want to know what's going on.
Okay.
This is set up the way the customer chose for this unit. They wanted this open counter here. This can be cabinetry also here. And then over here, this is basically the standard, what they call the action wall. And this workspace is usually here in most ambulances. And a lot of times they'll put some equipment on top of here or whatever they may choose to carry up
So
there.
Monitor
mount could go there. Some choose to put it there. There's also an option if you don't want the netting for a little work top here with 2 pull-out drawers. A lot of times ALS squads prefer that because if they're running a 2-person crew and it's a paramedic back here by him or herself, they have everything that they need right there. There's also an option for this control panel to have a secondary one over here. Some people specify that because they always run a 2-person crew.
Okay.
So if they're trying to do something, they don't have to jump back and forth. And then the standard captain's chair here with the EVS, child EVS seat integrated in it. And then this is on a pedestal, which has a side door that opens, and there's a little bit of storage in there that can be used. And this particular unit is equipped with the portable O2 bottle spare brackets. They wanted them there. Some people have them recessed in on the side of their bench over here, but then you lose some space in the bench. It's all, again, preference.
Right. So now I noticed that, you're not a short guy and you're standing upright pretty well. Is there a standard height that's involved in these ambulances?
So there's several headrooms up to 72 inches. So there are several headrooms in here in this vehicle. This is the most common one because for the most part, I'm about 6 foot, and so it pretty much covers most people. Yeah, but if anybody has a serious height restriction in their station or something like that, they may go a little bit lower. But again, that's a customer.
All right. So in the Type 1 here, you said earlier that these can also come 4-wheel drive. Is that correct?
Yes, this one is.
This one's 4-wheel drive. So it's actually not real high, even though it's 4-wheel drive.
It's not. It does have the air ride system from Ford on it, which improves the ride because at the end of the day, a truck is a truck and it's a truck chassis.
All right.
So it does really make out good. In the past, that you would have to put an aftermarket air ride on, but now Ford offers that right with, it's called liquid spring suspension, and it comes right along with the chassis, so the bodybuilder doesn't have to mess with it at all.
That's awesome. Okay, how about we go take a look at the Type 2 next?
Sure.
And now we're at the Type 2 ambulance, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what's the difference in this one?
So this, the body itself, the van itself, comes from Ford as you see it. So the only thing the ambulance manufacturer is doing is the interior. It comes in as a shell.
Okay.
And the interior is put in.
So there's no external modifications that you do?
No.
Okay.
No, it comes in 2 options, a high roof or a low roof. This is a high roof model.
Okay. And this is the Ford Transit, I think most of them are?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, this is the Ford Transit.
Okay. Up front, how is it all set up for you?
So up front, with it being the Type 2, it's similar to the Type 3 in the cab. And they did away with the engine box that used to stick way out into the middle, which allows more space for the switch panel and a custom center console.
Okay.
So you don't lose anything there with that.
Now I noticed when we were just in there that it's not a walkthrough anymore. They used to be walkthroughs in some of these ambulances.
You can get these in a crawl through or the window style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a communication system between front and back that you can also be offered?
If the customer wants that, yes. There is and it can be mounted on the action wall. or on the squad bench side, or both.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then this has a side door for the curbside, right?
Yes,
Just
this
a
has
slide?
this has the curbside door.
Nice and easy to get into from the side here.
Easy to get into. There's not much you can change on the inside of a van. We have very little real estate to work with, so there's not too much. The biggest change that you can do is with this bulkhead compartment here.
Okay.
You know, you can change and make this all one opening, but other than that, you only have so much room in here to work.
So basically you got the bench seat on the one side, you got the action wall and the cabinetry on the other side with your captain's chair up front. And that captain's chair is the same as what we had in the Type 1?
Yes, that captain's chair has the child restraint seat integrated into it.
Okay. Now, what would be the mission profile for a smaller ambulance like this? Why would one want to choose this over the one we were just in?
So a couple things. A lot of non-emergency transport companies that do interfacility, nursing home, special care unit runs will have fleets of these. They are good for that purpose. They're also, this particular truck, Cooper University Hospital in Camden, they use a mix of these and small Type 3s, but they have the 911 contract for the city of Camden. Narrow streets, alleys, they run 40,000 calls a year, emergency calls a year, and they just buy bunches of these every year and they just run them through.
Right, right.
You know, and it serves the purpose
And
for
this
them.
is typically a MICU service or a BLS service where you're running just two providers. You're not bringing on a whole lot of volunteers. You're not bringing, you basically, those two people are taking care of the patients on a regular basis.
Right. They either have two paramedics or an EMT and a medic on the truck, and that's it at all times.
Okay.
And a van can be used for ALS or BLS.
Right.
So that's basically
Okay. How does the back doors work on this one?
the main user. So the back doors here,
Oh, wow. That's actually a very wide opening.
it's a very wide opening. In the past, the vans used to have just a flat roof.
Right.
And when the ambulance manufacturers got them, they would cut the flat roof off. They would weld a roll cage
Yeah.
up in there and put a fiberglass top. Now these transits come from Ford already, so they don't have to touch the roof or the
Yeah, I
bottom.
remember those days where you had to, make the difference in the roof height for what we needed. And even many times they actually put a lot of electronics up in there,
Yes.
up in the front, usually over the cab.
Yeah.
So, but Ford is, taking the next step and actually just taking the care of that for you.
Yes.
So where does we had the big bottle of oxygen in the other truck. Where would the oxygen be stored in these littler trucks then?
So this particular unit, the small oxygen is here,
Okay.
and around over here,
Oh, wow. Okay.
this, you pull the red pin and that slides out.
Okay. So it lays sideways.
It lays
and goes up
sideways.
underneath the seat then.
When you have minimal real estate to work with, they utilize every inch of that real
Right,
estate.
right. That's pretty slick. That's a good way to do
So,
that.
yeah. And it just tucks back in. Right.
So in the MedX series, a lot of the electrical components, are all the same as far as the buttons and the
Yes.
triggers and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, they use the same hardwired system. Everything is color coded. It's a singular run from point A to point B. There's no splicing in between. Every vehicle comes with the custom wiring diagram for that vehicle, so that if the people that spec that vehicle out are gone or retired in 2 years and there's new maintenance people or engineers, they can look at that and be able to figure out what they're, because it's built for that truck.
Right. Well, the good thing about that through MedX is specifically if I have a fleet that maybe has two of these, and one of the Type 2s, one of the Type 3s is all the same electronics. I don't have to worry about where to find the air conditioning, how to turn on the lights, because they're all the same. Is that correct?
That's correct. And a lot of large hospital-based units, it's one of the main reasons, other than the durability of them, that they go with this. Robert Wood Johnson Hospital in New Jersey, we have 12 of these on order for them.
Okay.
So again, standardizing, and for their maintenance team, it's the same thing.
Okay. Now I noticed in the Ford Transit line, they also have dualies. They have 250 or 2500 series and stuff like that. Do you offer that also?
Now this is the Ford. In the Ford line, they have what's called an ambulance prep package, and that goes Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. So even though this van may look like the same van that you see in the parking lot at a U-Haul dealer, it's not. By looks and size it may be, but it doesn't have a 47A ambulance prep package on it like this does.
Okay.
This is what they offer the ambulance prep package on, and all manufacturers are supposed to be compliant with the Ford QVM, and Medics is certified as a Ford QVM, which is Quality Vehicle Modifier. They get audited every year by Ford to make sure that they're following processes that are set forth by Ford, so that the Ford warranties aren't voided.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this Type 1 or Type 2 is very similar to what we see in the UK. They use a lot of the smaller type vans over there, and it's going to be interesting to see how our viewers take a look at this and say, hey, we had the Type 1, now we're in the Type 2, there's a big difference. But in America, we have a Type 3, and that's even different than these two.
Correct.
Let's go ahead and take a look at that one.
Okay.
So this is the Type 3 ambulance here in America, right?
Yes.
Okay. Explain to me what this one's about.
So this is the Type 3 is mounted on a dual wheel chassis that has a short front similar to the Type 2 van on the front. This particular model is the Ford E350.
Okay.
Which has the smaller body mounted on it. You'll see the similar to the Type 1 console switching controls in the front. Your curbside entry door, which is similar to the Type 1, and your exterior compartments. This body is smaller, so you'll have less compartmentation on, or smaller compartmentation on the outside.
Okay.
But again, there's a standard package where a customer can specify how they want a cabinet or compartment laid out.
And the back here.
The back's set up the same with the step that raises.
Okay.
The heavy-duty bumper, which is not mounted to the body, it's mounted to the frame, so that if anybody hits the back or the back hits anything, it's not damaging the body. The frame takes the shock of the hit.
That makes a big difference.
Yes.
Okay, and then this too would normally have like the striker power load systems and stuff like that.
Whatever the customer specifies,
wants
power load, performance load, or the Furno system.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how much different compartments can you put in these ones compared to that Type 1 we looked at?
This particular model is the RP90, and there are a few small changes that you can make on this model. It's an introductory model that a lot of hospital-based systems use, so there isn't a whole lot that you can change in an RP90 with it being smaller. You can opt in or out for a CPR seat. You can go with bench or captain's chairs over here. You still have all your glove holders. Everything is constructed the same. It's just on a smaller scale.
Okay.
So all the warranties are the same. The lifetime body warranty.
Okay.
So you're not really. It's just size. It's all about size.
So it makes it easier to get around when you're traveling and
Correct.
Personnel.
And unlike a van, the Type 2 van, this along with the Type 1, if you put a lot of miles on the vehicle, we can take it back, lift the body off, If you want the body repainted, repaint it. If you want to upgrade any lighting, that's fine. And it can be put down onto a new chassis. Depending upon the interior, if some of the busier units, they wear the floors out. So we put a new floor in it. But primarily a remount refurb saves you about 45 to 50% of the cost of a new ambulance.
Wow.
So that's a plus, and a lot of real busy squads will do that because they're putting 60, 70,000 miles a year on an ambulance.
Right,
so they want to they have a lifetime body warranty. They want to get a little more out of that, you know, because the warranty stays with the body.
And the other thing that I've noticed is those squads that do that tend to, take their time on their initial build. They make sure that the cabinetry that they want fits their equipment, make sure it's set up the way they like it, and then just having that consistency from year after year. Because obviously, just like cars, they change models, things different change. But if you can actually take that box off and put it back on the upgraded version,
right,
you still have that consistency, so it makes your job just that much easier to work in the back.
Right. And now that we're in the world of LED lighting, you're not really losing much when you do that. Before, people were remounting and then upgrading the lights because it was halogen to. Now everything is LED standard.
Right.
So you're not even losing technology when you do that now.
Okay. So one of the questions that had come up in some of our previous videos is how long does it take to build one of these trucks from the time I concept to usually the time of delivery? How long does that take?
So at speaking for Medics has 4 facilities in Elkhart, Indiana. They have one specifically for the Type 2 vans. They have another line just for these RP90 Type 3s. They're building between 850 and 900 ambulances a year on an average. And right now, as of today, it's about 11 months is what we quote. However, they build, and we as a dealer at Defender order a lot of demo units per year. So when we get a customer, if they're in dire need, a lot of times we can do better than the 11 months because we'll bump a demo unit back to get a customer truck done.
Okay.
And for instance, I have a customer that ordered a van in July and they're going to have it the end of November.
Wow.
A Type 2 van.
Yeah.
But they're a busy service and they were down a couple ambulances. It's a transport service. We bumped a couple demos and got some stuff to get it for them quicker.
Okay.
So it all just depends. Right now, there's no chassis issues. So it was all over the map when the chassis, but I mean, they have chassis on the ground. The remounting, typically we are an authorized dealer for a remounting firm, and they remount all makes of ambulances. And as of last week, they had 60 some chassis in stock. So even remounting from start to finish is about 90 days to do a full remount.
Tom, thank you so much for bringing us around these vehicles. It was very cool to figure out, what America does here in regards to the EMS services. We do a lot of fire trucks. We do a lot of station rigs. We look at towers and rescues and all kinds of stuff, but it's rare that we actually get to see the ambulance side of it. And realistically, many of the departments run 90% EMS. So, I want to see more and more of these.
Sure.
When I have friends in the UK, they're like, why do you guys have such big vehicles? And why do you have, the same thing happens for ambulance services. We have the Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. And hopefully you guys as viewers have now a clear understanding on what these mission profiles are for each of the ambulances. One may not work for you, but guarantee you, Defender and the Medics line is gonna find an ambulance that's gonna be able to work for your profile.
Absolutely. It was great having you out today.
Yeah. Once again, this was Heroes Next Door. Thank you all for joining us. Do us a favor before we end. Hit that subscribe, hit that notification, make a comment below. What type of ambulances do you guys have and how did you guys set it up? We'll see you again next week. Until then, stay safe and take care of each other. So the one last thing I want to talk about is the legislation that came out a couple months ago that they were going to ban these DJI, specifically drones that are out there. And I would say 70%, if not 90% of a lot of EMS services and I'm talking EMS, fire, police, and ambulance services, use DGI products or some kind of foreign products?
So there's no nice way to put this. It's going to ground us. Our unit will be shut down if that were to happen, because we have $60,000 plus equipment sitting there to use for public safety, and if we're told that we can't fly the drones that we currently have, where are we going to come up with funding to try and purchase these new drones that are made here in the United States that cost twice as much and are substandard, in my opinion, as far as the technology goes?